Hello there, and welcome to this inaugural episode of Gaming with GreyHunter, with me, GreyHunter. Surprise. Surprise. So as I said in the intro video to this series, which you probably saw about 20 minutes, half an hour ago, if the gods of the internet be good, we're going to be doing our first little bit of the series on Crusader Kings II. And the reason we're going to be doing that, as I said in the video, was because Paradox, damn their souls, decided that it would be a good idea to put everything on sale. So they put everything on sale and they sucked me back into playing this game again. Though to be fair, for $15 to get most of the DLC, except for the old gods on Steam, that's a fair incentive. That's fair indeed. So, what are we going to be doing in this episode? Well, in this episode, what we're basically going to be going over is how to pick a character. And characters themselves, generally. Mainly what goes into a character, understanding your character, that sort of thing. So we're going to start up a little bit of a game, but it'll be a very slow-paced one. And I'm not playing through the whole game. No, 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 no. If you want to see me do that, you can, of course, go to my channel. I did a Let's Play. I'm still doing a Let's Play, actually, and it's a very exciting stage where we might be able to create the Empire of Francia. So, you know, if you guys want to pop over and see how we're doing, see the game being played for the sake of playing it as opposed to for the sake of teaching it, you know, feel free. Feel free. Leave comments about how stupid I am for the things that I do, and also how I don't follow my own advice, most likely. I'm sure I'll say something in this that I clearly don't follow in my Let's Play. Feel free to call me an idiot. It's what I do. It's what I do. So, where are we going to begin? Well, first we're going to begin with this box on the left. I love this box. This box is brilliant. Yes, I love this box. It is my everything for this game. So, what have we got here? Well, we've got bookmark dates, and bookmark dates here are very important ones. They range from 867 to 1337, and essentially each one is an important part of history. It's an important milestone. Something significant happened in all those years. And you'll see that 1066 actually has two of them, before Stamford Bridge and after Stamford Bridge. So King William has England in the William the Conqueror scenario, but in Stamford Bridge, it's a three-way battle for the Kingdom of England between these three fellas. So Duke William the Bastard, King Harold Godwinson, and Harald Hardrada of Norway. So it's a very interesting time indeed if you're playing that one. We are going to be playing the Stamford Bridge scenario. We're not going to be playing as Duke William though, but he was up there, he was the first one to click on, so you know, it's better than having a look at the map with nothing there. So, let's have a look. 867 was a fairly important time. For those of you who aren't particularly well versed in English history, it's the generally accepted acknowledgement of the beginning of the Viking sort of invasions, I suppose you could call them. Northumbria has fallen, or at least it's going to fall, and York, or Jorvik in this case, is a petty kingdom run by a Dane. And the Danes are the Vikings, you know, Danish. And then we've got Mercia, East Anglia, and Wessex to hold off against them. Cornwall, a little bit, but they're mostly the Welsh. The Welsh come from Cornwall and Wales. As some of you might have known, they're the original British people, so Boudicca's people, the fellas who fought against the Roman legions and then themselves were fought against by the Anglo-Saxons who now control most of England, or at least what we call modern-day England. But this is not History with GreyHunter, this is Gaming with GreyHunter, so let's get back to the gaming. It's an important time, and as such, there are important characters. So there's King Ivar the Boneless, he's the king of, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. He's an independent petty king. That's all we need to know. He's doing an invasion at this point of East Anglia, and he's also fighting Northumberland. He's fighting Northumberland because his brothers are doing it. He's fighting East Anglia because his brothers are doing it. His brothers are the Lothbrok sons, so Ubba and Halfdan, I believe Halfdan, yes, Ubba, Halfdan, and Ivar are the three brothers of Ragnar Lothbrok. And I'm sure that I'm saying that wrong, and that any people from Scandinavia are going, "You fool! You fool, you're saying it wrong!" I know. and I'm sorry, but I've just not learned your words, your alphabet. So feel free to correct me, because I just don't know. I'm probably making a hash of a lot of things as well, so it's what I do. It's what I do. Moving on. We've also got Stamford Bridge, obviously, you know, good 200 years later. And then we've got other things, like the Alexiad, where the Turks are just about to beat the Byzantines. And I can't for the life of me remember what the battle was called now. Manzikert. Manzikert. It's the Battle of Manzikert. Then we've got the Third Crusade. Everybody knows that one. If you've seen Kingdom of Heaven, you know exactly what that is. The Latin Empire, which is essentially the follow-on to the Crusade, like the Crusader states. It's mainly Cyprus and that sort of thing. The Mongols, of course, everybody knows about the Mongols. Kagan Genghis of the Mongol Empire. He's here, man. He's here. He's coming to kill you. He's coming to kill you. You can play as him if you want to. He's an interesting character, but I don't know. I don't really like playing as him. You can play as the Hansa, if you chose to, in the Rise of the Hanseatic League, which is an interesting choice, but again, not something that I generally like to do. Or you could go and play as one of the people from the 100 Years' War. That's the Joan of Arc one, for those of you who are going, hang on, where have I heard that before? Between the English crown and the pretender to the French throne. And again, to dip into history, technically Edward is correct in this case, because Philippe was not the closest blood relation to the last king. Technically Edward was. But they ignored that. They didn't want a foreign king, which, to be fair, is kind of understandable, and, you know, they said no. Anyway, we're going to be playing in the Stamford Bridge scenario, but we're not going to be playing as any of these folks. We're going to be playing as somebody else. We're going to utilize the ruler designer, so I can show you characters and that sort of thing, and the person we're going to be playing as is King Murchad of Munster. Now, the first thing you might be thinking is, hang on, if he clicks on Independent Realms, which shows all the independent realms, Munster's not king of anything. He's not even a king. The Kingdom of Ireland does not exist if we go to the king's option. There's a Kingdom of France, there's a Kingdom of England, there's even a Kingdom of Scotland, but there is not a Kingdom of Ireland. There's not a Kingdom of Munster either. So why is he a king? Well, some cultures in ancient history, well, not so ancient history, I suppose, in medieval history, called themselves kings. They weren't kings in truth, but they were kings of their own land, if you like, and they liked to be called kings. So it was more of a pride thing than anything else. So if you're independent and you're of a few separate cultures, I believe they're mostly Celtic. See, as you can see, King Conan II of Brittany is Celtic as well. But he's just a duke, in practice. In practice. But as long as you're independent, and if you are of those few cultures, you will be called the petty king of such and such. Well, you'll just be called king, but it'll be a petty kingdom of Munster. So we're going to be playing as the petty king of Munster, but what we're going to do instead is we're going to go to the ruler designer, so I can show you guys something about the characters. But the other things that you want to take into account when choosing a character, of course, is first, what DLCs you have. So if you've got the Sword of Islam DLC, you can play as the Muslims. If you've got the Legacy of Rome, it doesn't really do anything for playing as somebody, but it unlocks retinues, so that's kind of important. If you've got the Republic DLC, you can also play as a Merchant Republic, and if you've got the Old Gods, you can play as Pagans. Pagans are so much fun. They're very broken, but they're a lot of fun. So if you've got these DLCs, you can pretty much play as anybody except a theocracy. So if you see, if I hover over the Pope, I can't click him. Though that might be because of the way I was doing it. Yeah, there we go. Not allowed to play theocracies. You cannot play them. You can be part of one, but you cannot play as one. So as you can see, I can play as Count Jacopo of the Orsini. I can play as him, but I cannot play as the Pope himself. Nope. Not allowed to play theocracies. But I want to, Mummy, I want to. Nope. You can also filter by counts, so if you want to be a single county fellow, you can filter by that. You can filter by duchies, which is what we were doing, so we could see who claims to be a petty king over here. You can play as a king, if you so choose, or you could even play as an emperor, but there's only 2 empires in existence at this point, so they don't get their own little option here. It's fairly obvious who they are. There's the Holy Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire. The Fatimids, I suppose you could technically call them a empire, but they're technically only Egypt at the moment. They generally do become an empire, though, at some point. You can also filter by religion if you choose, though that only really comes into it if you are playing with these DLCs that allow you to play as different people. Otherwise, you're pretty much just stuck with Catholic. That can still be fun, and you can filter by culture, so if you wanted to play specifically as a Norman lord, you could do that. You could have a look for Normans, find them, and there we go, you can play as a Norman. We could play as Robert de Contville of Mortain. We could play as... no, not that one. Duke William, if we so chose. All these interesting people. You can play as Castilians, Andalusians, Portuguese, Basque, Catalans, Italians, Greeks, Croatians, Germans, Bohemians, Polish, Pomeranians, Danish, Anglo-Saxon, Welsh, Irish, Scottish, Norse, etc., etc. We're just going to be playing as an Irish guy. So, let's select him, and then we will go to the ruler designer. Now this thing is really fun. This is really fun because you can play around with your ruler, you can make him look however you want. So far we've got a guy called King Sean of Munster. I don't like him. Randomize. No, I don't like him. Randomize. Nope. Nope. I'm not liking these. I'm not liking these at all. That dude had a wacky mustache. You will do, sir. Alright, so we'll keep Sean. We'll change his coat of arms a little bit. Yeah, that's okay. We want to change what he has here. We're going to change it to a blank shield, I think. Come on, blank me. Oops. Oh, it's actually the next one that's blank, I think. Yeah, close enough. So let's choose colors. Blue. Yeah, we'll go with blue and red. Blue and red seems nice. Could we pick... No. No, you can't. Okay, that'll have to do. That'll be fine. And then we go next, click to attributes. So this is where you can create your character. If you choose to play as a regular character, like King Murchad, you don't get to do this. You just get whatever your character has. But in this case, you can customize a little bit. So this is a good idea to look at this just to get a feel for the traits and such, because it can be really, really helpful if you have a solid understanding of how the traits that your characters have are mixed together to make you, as it were. So because he's a character who's just coming into the ruler designer, he's age 16. You cannot go over the age of 50, but through your traits and fiddling around with these things, you can get an age that's close to 16 if you want to. You can get one between 16 and 50, and if you fiddle around with it enough, you can min-max to your heart's content. We're not going to do that. We're going to make someone who's kind of average at everything. So the first thing you want to do is decide, is he married? If you marry him, he gains a couple of years, but it's better to leave them unmarried anyway, because then you get to choose your own bride. And I'm going to be doing that for the purposes of this tutorial series, mainly because it'll be easier to explain character interactions if he's not married. So let's have a look. Everyone has an educational trait, and the educational trait is very important because it defines which characteristic they're strongest in. So you've got one for diplomacy, one for martial, stewardship, intrigue, and learning. The one I prefer to go for is the Midas Touch. Now you'll see that Midas Touch has a big red 15 sitting next to it. Why is that, you might ask? Well, because it adds 15 years to his age once you select it. So he's Midas Touched. He never seems to run out of funds, and he's an excellent choice for a steward and mentor to children destined to become administrators. So he gets a bonus to his martial, a hit to his diplomacy, a massive boost to stewardship, a bit to learning, and he's more likely to make babies. Which I think is hilarious because, he's the Nerdlington. Out of the bunch, he's probably the Nerdlington set of traits. So you could go with a warrior king if you so chose. Makes him stronger at everything. His learning takes a little bit of a hit, but he's really strong at fighting. You could go with a Grey Eminence, who's very good at diplomacy, but not so much of a warrior, and his fertility boost is a little bit less than the Nerdlingtons. The Detached Priest and the Mastermind Theologian. He takes a hit to fertility, not a good thing, and generally not the best of traits. I mean, it's got a little bit of a appeal to it now, because learning actually matters for technology, but it's not so interesting. And I'm showing you the extremes of all these because the other ones are generally just not really all that interesting. You've also got Intrigue, obviously. And Intrigue is generally the second weakest of these ones when you're choosing a character that you're ruler designing, mainly because you can gain Intrigue. You can just have a really, really good Spy Master. So let's go with Midas Touch, and you'll see that he suddenly is 31. Not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal, because we can take traits that do mitigate that a little bit. You can also select if your character has children. In my experience, you never really want that. It just makes things messy, because you can't really teach them. I mean, you can teach them, but I don't know. I like going into it without any kids. But anyway, we were going to select some traits. So again, red and green numbers. Green numbers are the good ones, though they generally have really, really bad things attached to them. They're good because they reduce your age, so if we make him a Kinslayer, his diplomacy takes a massive nosedive, but suddenly he's 16 again. We don't want that though, so go away, Kinslayer. What are we going to choose then? Well, for starters, you can choose a few of these that are actually kind of good. I like to pick Wounded, because Wounded gives you a few years at the expense of potentially dying. So that's something to think about. But generally it won't happen, and if you don't die and you recover from the wound, you gain a scar. And a scar gives you extra prestige. Very, very important. So we'll take Wounded. We don't want any of these other ones, they're kind of iffy. But you'll notice that one of the more powerful ones, Crusader, which gives you a martial bonus of +2, and a +30 relationship with anyone else who has it, is a massive 29. So if we took that, he'd immediately go up to being 49. And I don't think you could possibly mitigate that. If you were min-maxing like a mad bastard, maybe. Speaking of bastards though, we are going to be a legitimized one. It's always interesting to see how people deal with that. Not going to be excommunicated, kinslayer or homosexual, or club-footed, or hare-lip, or hunchback, or lisped, or stuttering, though I'm doing a good job every once in a while. Attractive is interesting, it increases your diplomacy, but not really fantastic. And I will explain how these all interact with each other later. For now, it's just going through them. Quick is always a good one. It takes half as much as Genius, and you actually get +3 to everything, so generally I find that it's a better one to take than taking Genius. So we'll take Quick as well. Don't want Strong. Weak is very, very bad. It means you're more likely to die. Duh, weak. Celibate, if you ever get that, you are fucked. If you haven't had kids already, you are boned. No two ways about it. We want to be a hedonist, because children, monthly piety takes a hit, but that's okay. It does, however, leave us at age 35, and we do want some more traits. We will be lustful, more children are always good. Temperate, yeah, okay, improves our stewardship. We don't need to massively improve that. You see it's at a 19 right now. That's not going to come into consideration for a fair while. But I do like having somebody with strong stewardship, and I will explain why, again, when we get to the game. We could be diligent, but it's not really needed. Ideally, we want to be about 30, 32 to 35. We'll be patient, deceitful, which again increases your intrigue. See what I mean about not having to worry too much about getting someone good intrigue teaching you when you can generally pick up traits that are very good for it anyway. Craven? No. Brave? No. Gregarious? No. Ambitious? No. Content? Not the worst choice in the world. But we're not going to min-max. We'll give him just... 49 is a little old for the beginning. So, we'll make him content as well. He doesn't need to be fantastically overburdened with desires to conquer the world. So there, as you can see, he's not too bad. He's fairly well-rounded. He's obviously got strengths in learning and stewardship, but his intrigue and martial aren't too bad, and diplomacy can generally be offset with having a good steward. So we'll lock it all in, and click finish, and get to it. So, play. Alright, so we're going to be talking about the characters for now, and you'll notice that Merchad McDonchad has entered our court. That's because when you play as a custom ruler, the person who used to be ruler of the place you're now ruler of gets deposited in your court, and he has claims on you. At least he should. Apparently he does not. Maybe they removed that in the latest patch. Anyway, as you can see, all of our traits are down here, and we've explained what most of them do, but I'll go through them again. So, legitimized bastard generally means that people don't like you. You're a bastard. You weren't really meant to be in the succession line, but you were. You ended up in the succession, and so there you are. We've got quick, always nice, improves everything by +3. Hedonist, you take a piety hit, the priests don't look too handy on they don't look too well upon fornicating like rabbits, and that's why Lustful also has that same penalty, except it's only half. This is a lifestyle choice, this is just a general vice. You've got Temperate, which increases your stewardship, Patient, which increases everything by +1, except for Martial, and your defense gets a +20% bonus, which is really, really nice when you come down to fighting properly. In armies and big wars, all that sort of thing. It's a really, really nice trait to have. You've got Just, which is good. It reduces your... Oh, hang on. Oh, we skipped one. Deceitful, which increases your intrigue and takes down your diplomacy. People don't tend to trust you. Wonder why. Just. People acknowledge that you are a just ruler. You know, you're learned. You're good at administrating. That sort of thing. All is well. If you're content, you lose a bit of intrigue, but it offsets the piety thing, and it gave us back a few years, which was nice. It'll probably go away after a while, and of course we've got wounded, because we might potentially die. So we've been seriously injured, but we should heal given a bit of time. Hopefully. Of course, we might not live that long. So our heir is currently Brian McMurchat. He's actually this guy's son. But he was the next in line, and until we produce an heir of our own, that's how it rolls. So we've got no heir at the moment. Which is not nice. Not nice at all. So this episode's getting a little bit long. So what I think I'll do is I'll show you guys how we arrange marriages, and then in the next episode we'll probably go over the council and that sort of thing. So if you want to arrange a marriage, you know, character interaction, you can just click on this button if it's you or your son or someone like that, and you can go arrange marriage. And then up pops the bride finder. The bride finder is wonderful, and the reason the bride finder is wonderful is because it presents every marriageable woman. Every single one. Which is nice. So if you scroll down long enough, you'll get to people who are Muslims, who are Orthodox, etc, etc. So you can also pick matrilineal marriages if you're a female ruler, but as a male ruler you really never want to do that, unless you're marrying off your daughter who happens to be your heir, etc, etc. So let's have a look, let's see if we can find a good match. So ideally for somebody like King Sean, we'd like somebody who's strong in martial, strong in diplomacy, and preferably a little bit of intrigue, just to boost our own stat there. So let's have a look. Who appears to be a good choice? Well, first off, we've got this lady, the Princess of Norway. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. But she's the daughter of Harald Hardrada. And as you can note by this little blue flag, if you get a little blue flag there, it means you get an alliance. So if we married her, we'd get an alliance with King Harald Hardrada. Granted, he's kind of old, so he's probably not going to live that much longer. So any alliance we'd get would be pretty short-lived, but still, the prestige from marrying a proper king's daughter would be kind of important. And we'll get to prestige in a second. So let's have a look. She's quite good. She's actually got a fairly decent diplomacy skill. She's not fantastic at martial, but her intrigue is skyrocketing. She's excellent. The only problem is she's paranoid. She's more likely to die, if I remember correctly, because she'll think everyone's out to get her. So maybe we'll have a look and see if we can find someone more well-balanced. Let's go for someone with high diplomacy. And we've got a few good candidates. There's Rocker, though she's kind of horrible in the terms of martial skill, so probably not. Zilla? Maybe. Actually, you know, no, we're going to go with the Norse princess and see if she'll marry us. So propose that King Sean and Princess Inga, I'm going to call her Inga from now on. As a king, Sean would gain 16 prestige from marrying into that house, and 100 from marrying the relative of a king. Even though he's not a true king, he's recognized as one. If we were part of a realm, a proper realm, like a united island, we would be called a duke. But for now, that's okay. So he'll say yes because he likes us, and the base reluctance is a little bit on there, but he's okay with it. So Harold Hardrada is not at war with us, he's free to accept. Send off the marriage proposal. Now, the reason why prestige is important is because there are a few things up here in this bar that are very, very key. First one, your money. If you don't have any money, you can't really do anything. Kind of important that you keep some money. If you're a pagan, you can generally go looting. If you're a Norse pagan, I don't think other pagans can do it. Norse pagans can. They can go looting, so a Viking, essentially, and collect money from people who are not their religion by stealing it. Always quite fun. However, the person you're stealing from gets the opportunity to attack you. But we'll go into that later when we go over the whole war thing. Next up is prestige. Basically, this is how famous you are. If you've got high prestige, people will like you because they will know of you. So, again, to reference the game that I've been LPing on my own channel, my current king has a prestige of about 2,000. So people love him, people know him. They go, oh yes, he's that guy, he did that thing. It's very important. It's basically your reputation. Low prestige, you can get over it. But the more of it you have, the more the nobles like you, the more everyone else likes you. Kind of important. Piety. How religious you are. That one's kind of self-explanatory, but it's very important for ruling over people like bishops. Or if you're unlucky, a prince bishop, who has a whole duchy. They can be kind of iffy, because if you don't treat them quite... God, losing the faculty to speak. If you don't treat them quite right, they will get a little bit testy and pay their taxes to the Pope instead of you. Not ideal. So piety can be kind of important. It's not the best thing in the world, but if you go to here, and if we go to de jure, you'll see that to create the Kingdom of Ireland, which does not exist yet, you require 200 piety. So if you want to go around creating titles, it is sort of important. Mostly king titles. I don't believe dukedoms require piety. They might. They might only require a certain amount of prestige. Don't quote me on that one though. It's been a while. Next up is your domain size. I'm not quite sure why it says demesne. I'm assuming that that's like the old style way of saying it, but it's essentially how many provinces you can own yourself. So currently we own one of the possible 6. We've got Gavelkind succession, so we get a +1 from that. But again, we'll explain that later when we get to the next part here. After the council, we'll discuss laws. We have to get there first. And then finally, you've got these two. These are kind of unimportant. That's how many places you have in your realm, so how many holdings. And this one is your score, so your dynasty score. At the end of each character's reign, so when they die, you gain a score based on their achievements and their deeds in the world, and that gets added to your dynasty score, so it accrues over time, and at the end of the game, depending on when you end it, whenever you quit really, it'll come up with a score system comparing you with arbitrarily given scores to other great houses. Kind of unimportant. Obviously this is your domain, so what you own personally. Currently we only own the castle of Bunratty, but Bunratty is the county of Thormald. Earl Ragnavold of Ormond is our vassal, but we don't own it. He just swears fealty to us. It makes sense. It makes more sense if you've watched Game of Thrones and understand how the vassal relations work in that. Kind of. The last thing that I want to point out before we continue on, well, the last two things really, this is your little bar here, right? That says how many titles you have. This is what titles you have, and then underneath it is what titles you have claim on. Claims are very important, because you can't declare war in this game without one. You need a claim. No matter how flimsy it is, you need a claim to declare war for anything. Very important. But again, once we get to the council, then we'll go through explaining all that. The last thing that I want to go to, before we finish up this video, is ambition. Ambition is very important. Basically, you can choose a goal, so you can amass wealth, in this case, become a paragon of virtue, get married, improve our diplomacy, or become the King of Ireland. So this one, fairly explanatory. You want to, fairly self-explanatory, you want money. Money is good. This one, you want to be regarded as a very pious man. Very, very pious. This one, you want to get married, you want babies. Improve your diplomacy, again, self-explanatory. Because it's lower than 8, we can choose that one. If any other skill was lower than 8, we could also choose that. Kind of unimportant. But this one is an interesting one. If you want to become the King of Ireland, or the King of wherever you are, you can choose this, but you cannot unchoose it. If you succeed, you get 1,000 prestige, which is brilliant, but also, if you succeed, then you would get prestige from creating the title, unless of course it already exists. But in Ireland's case, it doesn't. So you would get a boatload of prestige from that. So again, it sort of says what I was saying about prestige being your fame. You gain 1,000 prestige from doing something really, really badass. So that's pretty cool. And of course your wife slots in here. Anyway, we've just come up to almost 32 minutes, so I'm going to call this one to a close. And then in the next episode of Gaming with GreyHunter, we're going to go through the council and everyone's functions. So that'll be fun. I will see you guys next time. GreyHunter, signing out.